Shout out.
Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom number 94. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. Get a good gang going here. We got John Kitt, Mike, Luff, Karsten, Tony, Don, Gary, Frank, Alan, Leo, Neil, Jim, Garth, Marco, who we'll get to, Dennis, and Kelly, and other people. And just for those who are watching anew, if you want to join in a live slot car chat, simply Google Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom and follow the links to any of the forum postings where I put the links. You will find the actual link to join a day or two ahead of time. So if you search now, you might not see the actual link, but if you go for the link on Wednesday morning, you'll find the link there. We alternate between morning and evening depending on where you are in the world, but we try to make it convenient for somebody somewhere at some point in time. Before we get to our normal starting thing of show and tell, we do have a new participant with us today. We have Marco, and Marco, I will let you unmute yourself and just tell us about your slot car related history, as much or as little as you want to share.
All right, guys, thank you for having me here. As you can notice, my accent is from a little far. I'm from Brazil. I've been living here in LA for probably 7 years now. That's the second time that I'm here. I've been racing slot cars since I was 12. My father used to own a commercial track back in Brazil for almost 4 years. I was his main mechanic over there. My mom put a stop on it because I had to go to high school and college, and then we sold the track. For the past 2 years, I've been working for Scott Bader at Electric Dreams. We're kind of trying to revive the brand that is completely that's its 30th anniversary right now. So this year, so we're rebranding everything. We installed a track. We have Danny Sensel that I see here with us there. Frank worked over there for a couple of months too. So yeah, that's me. I've been doing this job for 2 years. My background is filmmaking and advertising. I used to own my production company back in Brazil. I have several short films and feature films. I used to have a TV series back in Global, which is the biggest TV station in Brazil. I moved here to LA to follow the dream. I got involved with a big project that didn't get along because of the pandemic. And then I was looking for a 9-to-5 job. I had a good relationship with Scott because I was a hobbyist, I was a racer. And Scott, yeah, I need help at Electric Dreams. So it has been 2 years, and we've been trying to change everything that we can see that is wrong there, trying to bring the brand up. It's a big store. It's the biggest stock of slot cars in the world. We have almost 65,000 slot cars in stock.
You're here.
Yeah, there you go, Frank. And we're starting the racing program, which is pretty interesting. And I'm here actually to give some news, like very important news. That's why I joined the chat today, and make an invitation for everybody here. But that comes later.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. So thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing about the news that you have. So now let's move on.
I've got to behave now, right?
You got to behave. Yeah, he's Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to have to behave. I can't say what I like anymore.
Well, we'll go ahead and start with our normal beginning topic, which is show and tell. So if you have something you'd like to show and or tell, hold up your virtual hand and I'll make sure to get to you. And Alan, I'll try to call on you if you want to show off your Batmobile, but John had his hand up first, so go ahead, John.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I actually have an update on the 2G. Yeah, as you know, I'm up in Canada. It actually got, even for us, a wee bit cold. So the silicone takes a little longer to cure. Hopefully you can recognize your 2G body right here. There it is, right
looks
there.
good. Mm-hmm.
Yep, there it is. It's in that.
That's
big
actually
Beautiful
the
pink.
that's actually the 2J. You know what they said about the 2J? It looks like the box it came in.
Exactly. Yeah. So everything's still curing because I don't want to take the molds apart too soon. The garage got down to about 16, 17 degrees C, and ideally you wanted about 20 degrees centigrade, so it vulcanizes.
Eesh.
Yeah, well, it was about minus 30 with a wind chill here for a little while. So here are your other parts. As you can see, they're just turning out really well. It looks like sort of, I don't know, looks like dessert at an old folks home, doesn't it? Geez.
I don't know. None of us are old folks yet, John. So
Exactly. That's why I'm just surmising. So while this was happening, I thought I'd get some things up around the track. So I actually put up some of my one of my race sort of trophies here. This was a front wing I managed to rip off during one of my race days. So and I don't know if you can see this, but there are the pylons that I hit, and you can see the dent. Honestly, there's the cone dent there of one, and on the winglet there's a cone dent of the other one. So I got them in the right order too. And hopefully it takes, when you come down to race, if you ever come down, it'll take your eye away from this wonderful water tank. So I thought I'd at least get that done anyway. And actually the dents are really quite nice. They fit quite nicely. And I did manage a podium that day. I got a third place. I showed up at home and carrying a wing, and this third place, I won't call it a trophy. That's just overstating. And all my wife said was, how much?
what? How much you paid for the trophy? Yeah.
How much I paid for the wing? Never mind. If I can share one more thing here, I know that last week, Michael, you were asking about the RSK. So I did a little bit of an update on the RSK, and I'll just show you guys what I've got done here. I had a real challenge with the rear sort of vents, if you will. They're very, very delicate. Didn't know really what to use. So I actually decided on using, of all things, speaker wire. You see the strands of speaker wire? And then just placing them in. And it's not perfect. I still have some work to do, but initially I think it actually does a half decent job. So I'm going to finish that off, and hopefully it'll look half decent once it's completed.
What were the vents made of in real life?
They were actually really, really thin aluminum bars that were like welded into like an oval. And if you look at every car, even back in the day and even now with the restored cars, they all look different. They're different sizes, they're different shapes. So, which makes sense because a lot of the cars, were development cars. So as they needed more cooling, I imagine they changed the venting on the back. Well, they were very delicate. I mean, typically German, very precise, very delicate, and very nicely engineered.
But I guess sometimes the drivers back them into your pylons. So.
Oh gosh, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not that I've ever done that, but yeah. So, and then just showed you again. Michael, for updates, the headlight buckets are done. You can see they're actually turning out quite well. And so, if you want to light this kit, you can. And I've already done the glass for the front, which I can also cast solid because, for example, Bob Holbert's RSK always had solid covers because he never really raced it at night. But the front turned out really, really well. It's got a really nice little Coke bottle shape to it. The Strombecker body to start with is lovely, and then just need a little bit of tuning up. And
it's interesting looking at that. You can see hints of Mazda.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's like, oh, that when you have it in that view, it looks distinctly like it. Maybe it's just the angle, but it's interesting that they might have taken some cues from that as well as the Elan.
Oh yeah, well, originality is just undetected plagiarism.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I wouldn't doubt it at all. And there's the new sort of proper or more proper rear wheel arches. And then I thought, okay, I built an interior, and actually I used components. I cast a 356 interior, and then using a piece of, basically play struck card.
Thought that looked familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I mean, and again, if you look on the pictures back in the day, they used different kinds of seats. Some from were, people would put speedster seats in, they'd leave the RSK seats in, and then it actually fits in. So it actually will, I think, look quite good. So I just got to make a mold for that, and of course finish the rear off, and we're hopefully away at the races. Whoops, sorry about that.
I was at the Porsche Museum a couple weeks ago, and I think I saw some RSKs there. Nothing. You guys
Now,
can see.
were they real or
No, real.
wow.
Porsche Museum, yeah.
Yeah, in Stuttgart. Let me see. I'm not very familiar with the software. I can see where I am right now. Okay. But yeah, so here you go.
Oh yeah. Right. That was more like a Targa car with the extra lights.
Yeah, I was not, to confess, I was not very interested in this. I was more interested in this guy here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the 550. Sure.
So, but yeah, that's, sorry, I don't have pictures of the back of the RSK.
Oh, that's okay.
In my eye, the RSK is so much more pretty than the 550.
Yeah, and also
that 550.
Well, the RSK was a great development of the five. The biggest problem with the 550 was the swing axle in the rear that was not very fun.
This 550 here was very particular because that's the one that raced the Carrera Panamericana and has this kind of a wings in the back, so it caught my attention.
Yeah.
But if you see that the little grill in the back, it's probably close to the one that you're trying to reproduce.
Yep, and those were square, right. And then if you look at RSKs, they're kind of kidney shaped on the back. Some of them are sort of straight, and then it got more kidney shaped, I guess, as the car developed. And even the rear lights, Marco, on the RSKs were different. Some used the teardrop sort of 356, and some used the small sort of round ones that looked like turn signals from a 356. They just went, and admittedly, Porsche just went into the parts bin and said, "What do we got? Throw it on. Let's go." And you look at pictures of cars back in the day, and I mean, all those cars that exist now in museums are so over restored, which is not a bad thing. But I mean, a lot of them came out of the factory with dents because the aluminum was so thin. Even when they were transporting them, you breathed on them and they would dent. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted. Sorry.
Even the race cars like the Pink Pig and the other 956, they all kind of pristine condition. I wish we could see like some damage from the races or some dirt.
Yeah, exactly. And see what the cars actually went through as they were being raced. Yeah, I agree. Cool. So that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, good stuff, John. Does anybody have any other questions for John before we move on? Hearing and seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Marco.
I have one. John, what do you think about the Modelant RSK?
It's actually quite nice. I mean, it's much larger than the original, but it looks really, really nice. Yeah,
I visit them when they're still in production of that car, and it's a very nice people. It's father and son back in the garage, molding, making everything by hand, and they make only 1/5 of each. And they have 48 customers that always buy their cars. So available to the public is only 102, and they keep one, so it's only 100. It's a very, very, very nice production site, and it's like side skirts of Barcelona and like old houses. It's very, very. It was very nice to meet those people.
It's very cool.
Very cool. All right, thank you for sharing, John. And next up, we got Jim. What you got to share today, Jim?
I don't. Michael, were you going to talk about the F1 car?
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Because that's what I was going to do too. So do you want to go ahead? Because I think I may have one little thing.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, there we should be.
Yep.
Oops. Yeah, so there's the new Scale Auto F1 in the box. And I haven't done anything with it. I'm preparing a comparison video with the NSR, obviously. And so there they are side by side. That's how it comes out of the box, and everything else you have to put on it. The liveried cars aren't available yet. The one thing I did notice from a performance standpoint, or two things actually. One is it's a longer guide to rear axle distance, which I think is going to hurt it. Who knows how good it's going to be compared to the NSR. And it does not use air wheels, which I don't think Scale Auto has. So it's got solid wheels. They seem to be identical size. The size, the dimension, the motor RPM rating, everything just seems to be identical, except the guide distance is about, looks like 3 or 4 millimeters longer. So I'm looking forward to testing it this weekend at a track. We're having a F1 race. My personal opinion is that I hope our club does not allow it, just because if it's better, everybody's got to buy one. If it's not as good, you bought something that you can't use, and NSR originated it. So that's just a personal political opinion, is let the company that originated this keep the class and then go from there. But I do want to, like I said, I'm preparing a comparison video for my YouTube channel.
I think Allslot might actually contest that contention that NSR invented it.
So, but in terms of popularity, obviously the NSR was the first out recently. So those are just my opinions on what we should do with this class in our particular club. I don't think we should allow it. It's going to be
interesting to see what happens.
But we'll see. Like I said, the only performance difference that I can see is that guide to rear axle difference. Other than that, it's a different motor because it's a different brand, so it may be faster or slower, but it's rated the same.
Hey Jim. Yeah, I was very close to this prediction, and I was trying to bring to electric dreams for a long time. Unfortunately, the local distributor took like almost 7 months to make it available to us. We just got the car at the store, I think like 5 days ago. For me, the big difference is not only even the guide, of course, the guide distance, but the side skirts. They don't look like, they look like just decoration, but that's part of the chassis as well. And it makes it wider.
Are you inclined to keep it NSR only, or wait and see what the performance
I'm changing.
is?
I'm going to make this legal too. I'm going to make this legal for our class.
Okay.
I think the basic core of slot car racing is trying different things. I understand there's the economical value on it, and I understand that if it's faster, it's going to be a trend, everybody's going to go for it. But I don't think if you don't allow this kind of changes in different parts, people are not going to get you into the hobby and try experimenting and trying different things and making the car faster. And I think they're very similar. NSR,
they should
be. Andreas says that his car is better and faster. Ivan says that his car is better and faster. He also made me try and compare at Creek Crack both cars that he set up. So that's kind of like both. But I tried both cars.
I'm the Scale Auto guy. Let me try my NSR car.
I'm gonna put it together today and tomorrow, and I have a practice session on Friday and a race on Saturday. I'm not gonna race it because our club doesn't allow it yet. Okay. But I'm gonna practice with it, see how it goes. I'm not sure whether I should take the tires and put them on air wheels so everything is theoretically equal, or just leave them stock.
I think those wheels are so small that the air system doesn't make much of a difference.
That's been my experience, is that the wheel is very small and the tire is very big. Yeah. So above the air, there's a lot of rubber, and I don't think it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely. I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. It's a big piece of rubber.
Well, I tried putting a foam insert in my NSRs, and I really couldn't tell the difference.
Dennis and I were going to be performing some testings too on Thursday.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about the Scale Auto is the fact that it has there's a high nose version, so you could do Benettons and some of the later, some of the mid 1990s cars.
Yeah,
and Atalaya decals are providing those. We already have at the store.
Marco, I have a new test driver, but we'll talk about that later.
All right.
Marco, what diameter is the 332 rear axle in the Scale Auto?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Repeat that, Wayne.
What diameter is the 332 axle in the Scale Auto?
Probably the same as the NSR.
Yeah.
It is, then you can take the same pair of tires off the NSR and put them on the Scale Auto.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that this weekend just for a head-to-head test as opposed to just an out-of-the-box test, but we'll see how it goes.
Alan, do you have a question?
You missed something about the Scale Auto comparison. There is a big difference. It's not just the guide length. The Scale Auto has an offset motor mount, and NSRs do not make offset motor mounts. Now, when we've done testing, and I've seen both these cars do head-to-head on plastic tracks, the Scale Auto sticks down better because the motor's closer to the track. As far as not allowing them to compete, I mean, I love it when, Latino type people have it out in a big fight. That's great. Show their emotion. I want to see Scale Auto and NSR on the same track, duking it out. And my prediction is the Scale Auto will be faster and everyone will want one, but they'll find out it's more fragile and then they'll break them and then they'll go back to the NSRs. That's what I think is going to happen.
One thing that are going to make legal and for our racing classes is that everybody needs to use the NSR motor. So our track have big straight lanes, and I've been doing this for all the classes to set up only one legal motor so people can experiment different chassis, different cars, different brands, but keep the same motor so we have a playing field.
Actually, the King Purple and the Scale Auto SC25 aren't only rated very similarly, they perform very similarly on the track. They really do. I mean, there is a slight difference in that the NSR motor is a little more torquey to the feel and a little less forgiving, and the Scale Auto is a bit easier to drive. But I've been using both these motors for about 5 years, and honestly, if you put one in a car and ask me, tell me to drive it and ask me what I think's in there, I couldn't tell you.
I think Michael has some real world testing that he can add to this conversation.
Yeah, I do. I tested it right out of the box with the magnet, and it was stunning performance with not truing it or anything. It's really, really fast. And I added 2.5 grams of weight to the front wing, and it set the fastest lap magless on my track that I've got, barely out of the box. Loosened the pod, chipped it. Of course, if you want to look at it's chipped.
Let me spotlight in here. There you go.
Okay, you can see the chip in there.
Yeah, SP15B chip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a 15B. You can see there's spring mounts on the side for suspension, and these days I'm sort of all about suspension because I've seen that with magless cars, it's made a huge difference on my track. So consequently, I've interested in all things suspended, so to speak. And yeah, I think it's a great car. The tires have great grip. They're weird to true because they don't seem to do anything, but they do get trued. There doesn't seem to be a lot of rubber off of them. It's almost like you get the molten rubber thing too really quickly, but it seems to work. They do get trued, and there is a little bit of leaving from it. So I'm really happy with it. I actually ordered another one right off the bat, and probably will do 3 of them. I've got an NSR. One thing I did notice is that the rear wheels on the Scale Auto are slightly larger diameter than the NSR wheels. Since we were talking about it, I had a caliper here, and the Scale Auto diameter of the wheel itself, not the rib, is 11.97 or 12 mil, and the NSR is 10.3, so it's 2 millimeters larger, I believe. So,
but that'll be counteracted by the offset pod. So, when I've seen them one-on-one, if you want to see a review, there's a magazine out there that's online called SCM, Slot Car Magazine, produced by Mark Abbott and the Rickster. And you can get that online. You can get a PDF of that. And in last month's issue, Mark Long did a review of the Scale Auto. So if anybody wants a heads up about what he found, it's in there. And I saw that car flying around several tracks and was quite impressed with it.
Cool.
And you had made a comparison, or a different kind of comparison earlier to the NSR F1 that you had already had.
Oh yeah, when I first got the NSR, but to be fair, I was doing mostly magnet racing then, and I could not get it to perform at all. It was absolutely uncontrollable, no matter what tires, with magnets on it in various places, and I sort of like put it on the side. But since I started going magless and started being able to turn voltages down and stuff, I have to revisit it and see what it'll do when I have apples to apples in this regard. And what I'll do is I'll swap the tires out from the Scale Auto, so I have same tires, and see if it'll come anywhere near that. I think that the chassis is different. I think the kerfluffle about stealing ideas is ridiculous, because there isn't much you can do with an F1 car. I mean, there's very little there. If you're going to run an inline long can, that's it. You're not stealing ideas. You're just adapting it. They do have the suspension on the side of the chassis, which I think is a lot different than the suspension provided for the NSRs. So, and I'm going to test them both suspended when I get a suspension for the Scale Auto.
Michael,
doing that.
Michael,
you have to remember that NSR, for them, NSR magnets are an afterthought. They're not a toy manufacturer, not like not like Scale Extra. For them, they probably don't even design that. They probably don't even test the cars with magnets in.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the NSR 8689, if you put magnets in, it sags in the middle. You have to have the green chassis.
Right.
It's a complete waste of time with magnets. But
yeah,
serious racers don't use magnets, so that's not their market.
Michael, just to get into that beef between Scale Auto and NSR, I agree that there's not much to do, and I think Osterero made a very similar Formula One car like 10 years ago.
Sure.
But the problem is this F1 car for NSR was the best-selling car of the history of the company. And
really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I think if you read something very similar a year later, you kind of taking advantage of a trend, which I don't blame Scale Auto. I don't blame Ivan or anybody, because it's an open market, and if you can offer a product that is similar and his head is better, you should do it. But that's why NSR is so pissed with Scale Auto, because they are. Well,
in real cars, you could compare it to the Mustang coming out and Chevy coming out with the Camaro, not a couple of years later. It's the same type of thing, and of course they're going to improve them. If they see something that's a problem after testing it, they're going to try and improve it. So yeah, I don't see it as a problem.
Lucky us that we have so many options, and I think that the way that NSR put out their feelings about it was kind of a lot. But the only explanation is that they took some sort of a commercial advantage, because that is the most sold NSR car ever.
Well, we look forward to your revisiting the comparison between the two cars with non-magnet and all that stuff.
Which one's more money?
Well, the NSR is more money as usual. The Scale Auto, I will agree with Alan that the body, it looks pretty flimsy, but there's a solution for that. Don't crash it. So it's much more of a problem on a large wood track than it is on my home track. On my home track, with the voltage lowered, it's a lot less crashing, and even if you do, it's not much.
Yeah, because you're not flying down a 30-foot straight into a brick wall.
Yeah.
Mike, how'd you get the little bits in the cockpit?
Well, I actually I've got it here. I had to split it in two.
Oh yeah.
And in order to get the chip in, and I haven't painted it up yet or anything. So.
No, man, my fingers are too big. I've been having trouble. I haven't done anything yet.
All right, sounds like we're coming to the end of that topic. Does anybody have any other additional information or questions on that topic before we move on? Seeing none, let's go to Don. What you got to show and share today, Don?
Well, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about some SCX NASCARs that I got that were digital, and somebody had tried to convert them to analog and were burning the chassis up on them. Well, I figured out how to make them work right. I basically took the chip out of the holder. I unsoldered the tabs off of the chip and soldered these wires to them. And they're slid into a little slit that's in this plastic box that holds the chip, and the firmness of the wire is strong enough to hold these contacts in place to where the car will perform.
That is
So
very
that's how I fixed it.
Yeah, you got it fixed. I mean, I guess it's good that those chips are not in high demand, because you basically you tore up a digital chip to make it.
No, they were already burnt up. So
Oh, okay. So they were non-functional chips to start with.
right.
Okay. Well, then you're forgiven. Well, good job on figuring that one out and not melting up a chassis or anything. Those can be a pain in the butt sometimes.
And then I was telling Mike when we were talking last week about how I like to buy somebody else's junk that they've gave up on and redo it. And this is one of them that I've rebuilt.
Is that a
Oh,
slot?
no.
Yep, slot it. So what did you have to do to it?
Put a motor in it, clean it. Otherwise, for the most part, it was there. Of course, it needed new tires, so I had to replace those.
Looks
Nice.
good.
And then this one, I haven't got the tires for it yet, but it's Scale Electrics.
Okay.
That's a nice car. It handles really well.
Do you have the wing for it, or is that long gone?
No, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then this one, I'm not done with it yet. Somebody's attempt to make the General Lee. And for the most part, it's a fairly good body, but they cut the mounting posts off of the chassis to try to lower it.
Yeah.
And of course, now there's no way to really attach it to where it will do what it's supposed to do, but I'll figure that out later.
Was that the Pioneer or the Scalextric?
It's the Scale Electric.
That's too bad.
You can purchase 3D printed aftermarket universal body posts.
Well,
Aftermarket
the body
universal
posts
body posts.
for the car
Hey,
are there.
cut the height and glue them in place.
Yeah.
So 3D printed
CT
tubes,
slot
are you
cars
saying?
make them.
Effectively, they're tubes, but they've got a step element to them so that you can get the screwdriver in, and the head is, the head isn't going to go straight through.
Worst case, you can always use plastic golf tees as well.
That makes fun. You got anything else, Don?
But well, I got a couple of other cars in that group that still need a lot of work before I show them. So.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing that one. And thank you for sharing, Don. Looks like Garth has his hand up. What do you want to share today, Garth?
I got a couple of things. One's a car and one's a workbench thing. Let's see if I can share the screen. Got that?
Yep.
Okay. That's my first attempt at using the floor wax you guys told me about with the future floor wax. This is an old beat up Toyota, and I had to do some repairs to it, and so I cleaned it all up and did my repairs, did some epoxy on it, and I put some my new wheels on it, and then I floor waxed it. Okay, and it looks a hell of a lot better than it did, because it was pretty beat up. Okay, that's one of my new wheels, and I painted it with the wheels with Caterpillar yellow. Okay, it came out pretty good, so new wheels. Okay, and the next one is a workbench thing. This is the shot of my parts bins, okay, that I have that I use for slot cars. And this one here, I've got wheels in it and axles. I'm going to show that. And that's my axle block, okay. And this has got about 50 holes in it, okay, for 50 axles. And previous to this, I had one that had 20 in it, okay, and it was a problem because I had it sitting in the box on an angle, okay, because I can't fit the box into the rack with the axle sticking up in the air. So what I did was I ripped that one out and I redid this one, and I got it on a swivel, so it swivels up, okay, when I pull the box out. So
cool.
This thing's pinned, okay, and so I've got all my axles, large to small in that thing, okay, and I just flip it up and down when I need them.
Garth, you should call that the porcupine.
Yeah, okay, the porcupine. So, anyways, that was my show and tell for today.
Clever. That's a good way to make your axle, and you have them sorted by length and stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah,
I got a drill bit box that works that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like a drill bit box. That's probably where I stole the idea from.
Nothing new in the world.
Awesome. Good stuff. Garth, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Thanks for sharing. And John M. has his virtual hand up. What do you want to share today, John?
I'm going to share. Hello, everyone.
Hey, John.
I'm going to share Le Mans overall winners, slot cars. I started posting those on Instagram, so I'm going to show the first 6. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Okay. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep, the blue car.
All right, so that's that one I bought because it's 1939, and then after that they went to World War II, and they suspended the race for 10 years or 9 years. And this one I picked up because those wire wheels. Let me go to the next picture. The wire wheels were very fragile and they were a little bent up. So I think when I bought it, it was from my slot car guy. And he's like, "You want this?" It's, and I got a really good deal on it. I normally wouldn't have bought something before World War, but it's a beautiful car. It's Le Mans miniatures, and it's the 39 winner. You could see some really great detail. Look at the detail on this, and great driver. It looks like Dennis in there. And I always include 2 pictures with it, a photo, a real photo, and a painting if I could find it. So that's the first one. Then we go to Postwar. That's a Ninco classic, the really great cars to run around the track. And that's the 49 winner. Came on a nice base. And then once again, the real car, and then a nice painting. And when I do the paintings, I try and attribute it to the right artist. This is an MMK. They come in like a cardboard box, so I made my own little display case. And this one was tricky. Their cars aren't finished very well. And you could see when I show you here, let's see if I can, I didn't show a side, but the wheels didn't match the 4 wheels with the spare wheel. They were different spokes. But on this one, those metal parts that hold on the fenders were made of resin, and they were crooked and very broken. So I had to redo that in using paperclip wire. And there's a real car. That's a Talbot Lago. Here's one from Auto Art, and they made 2 of the Jaguars from Le Mans, and they look really Le Mans. But this guy he looks very he looks Japanese almost, and they're a Hong Kong company. I don't know, but the figure is very small. His head is very small. So beautiful car, but they don't do really figures in die-cast cars. They're a die-cast car maker and stuff. And here's a really nice picture of that car in action on, at Le Mans, and a really nice painting. The next one is a pretty rare one from Top Slot, and it's a Resin Car.
87 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like handmade, and they don't make a lot of them. This one is even more, right? You guys should know Slot Classic. They make beautiful cars. So once again, it comes in a cardboard box. I made my own display case so I could show it and not get it dirty and stuff. And they do really beautiful work. I really like, I have 2 of their cars, and I believe they use like die cast metal for their parts. You can see that how that front end is different. And once again, another great picture from Ma, and a painting, and that's it.
Very nice.
Yeah, nice collection there.
Yeah, so I'll be going all the way through it up to Le Mans. I got like 100 and so many days, so I'm not doing one per day, but I'll have them all in there. I did have one question, if I could, for Marco, if you would know, or Dennis. The newest Le Mans winner is from SRC. Is that already come and gone and sold out, or has it not come yet?
Actually, I don't want to brag, but I was in Spain a couple of days ago and visiting them. They are in the south of Spain, Alicante area, very close to where the Fly factory is, and very close to Cartrix too. They have several problems. SRC is a company that once belonged to Fly. Was founded by the owner, the father of the now owner of Fly. They have several problems in production. The guy who is the developer was a guy who used to work for Ninko. His name is Marco. They have a very nice office. It's a small operation of around 24 people. They produce everything locally. Like after that, I visited the mold machine. I visited like 4 different factories for different parts. They have problems in production. The car was delayed for almost 8 months. We got our first batch. Everything was sold out. I ordered more, and they don't know when they're gonna deliver it. There is more coming. There's a 2-car set coming also. The 2-car set's not like a twin nice pack. It's just the 2 cars in a bag. So if you're willing to get both cars, it's just like the same to get them individually. But they're coming. I think they're gonna come next month or so.
So did you bring them home with you from Spain?
No, they were not available when I was there. I saw the prototypes. Took pictures. It's on our Instagram. I have pictures of the prototypes. But yeah, they have several problems. They're kind of racing driven, so they value a lot the results of the car on the local races. They're bragging about a 6-hour race that they won with the new Toyota.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And then when I speak with the drivers over there, because they have like very serious drivers in Spain, and they say, yeah, but the chassis was not the original. So
that's important. Yeah.
So then they develop a new chassis. There's a new chassis for the Toyota, and they're gonna base all that mechanics and chassis to do the new cars. There's a Porsche 919 coming. That's the next car. So it's all based on the same mechanics. So they're gonna make a series of modern LMP cars. And about the Toyota, yeah, the number 8, the car driven by Fernando Alonso, was the winning car. It's coming more. I suggest you make a pre-order whatever you buy the car, because they're going to be sold out very soon too.
Yeah, the link for your site is gone.
Because I had problems with them. I pre-order when I noticed that we were selling more than you ordered, I ordered more, and they put us in a list all the way in the back, and then to get the cars out, I asked where are my extra ones? Oh, I don't have them.
Did it come out in Europe yet?
Did you what?
Did the car come out in Europe?
Yes.
Okay. I probably missed it. Okay.
Yeah, it's available there, but I think it's sold out too.
Yeah.
Right now we have a big order on hold, and I don't know when I'm gonna get it, but they're gonna come back.
Okay, I'll be patient. Thank you. Thanks for the information.
And thanks for sharing your collection, John.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like anybody else has any things they want to show and tell before we move on to Club Corner. Does anybody have anything they want to circle back on from what they saw during show and tell, or any questions for anybody else? Alan, did you want to share your Batmobile? Or?
Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Microphone working. First off, sorry I haven't been around for a while. It's got to be 6 weeks since I've tuned in. Other stuff's been going on. My son turned 18 2 weeks ago, so I missed that one. So I took him out. We went drinking and playing pool and all the things that 18-year-olds do. And the logic for that is, hey, let's get him over this wine, women, and song thing as soon as possible and get him back to slot car racing. Right? So because I haven't been around for a while, I didn't show you these. And these are, I get to be custodian of these beauties.
Ooh.
For a year. These are from London Slot Car, Wood Green. And I had rather a good year. I had a box full of trophies, but these are the two. I don't get to keep these. But
Congratulations.
And they have names engraved on them going back to 1989.
Very cool.
So there's some great names on there. And it's just, this is the sort of thing I think clubs should do. Clubs should have these, and they should have these as their history. So,
Yeah.
John, I know you took the mickey out of my rubbish trophy I got, and I put a gorilla mask on it and stuff. But these are the real deal. I'm now actually getting somewhere.
Now, Alan, do you get like a smaller one to sort of, recognize your win? Because that's what they do with, the Indy 500, for example. You get a smaller Borg Warner trophy or something. Do they do anything like that?
Do you guys really want me to bore you pulling down these sort of 5 other trophies?
Yeah, of course. So you can, why not?
No,
you won them. You should be so proud. Absolutely.
A lot of us don't get trophies, so I'd like to see what they look like.
I got a Walmart frame, and you don't want to know how much I spent for that damn thing.
You got it. John, you make me laugh. You make me laugh. Right. Bit of breaking news. There's going to be a team Gas Monkeys at the Oxygen Le Mans in April. We were agonizing over it. Team Alibaba withdrew. The Italian teams withdrew. And Graham Eldridge, Mark Long, and myself have bought out the one of the entries, the Alibaba entry, and we're going to have a Gas Monkey entry. So we're going to be racing a bright yellow Corvette C7R Scale Auto, heavily modified. Graham Eldridge is building it. And I think at some point, I'll take you through it. We've got 2 other team members. We don't think we're in the running to win this thing. We don't even think we're in the running to finish in the top half. But it's the first time we've run a team, so hey, that's how it goes. And maybe after that event, I'll take you through it. What we did and how the whole event went for us.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And right, Batmobiles. We have an unusual class at London Slot Car called Thundersport. And Thundersport allows us to do, this is one we run once a year, typically for Christmas or something. Allows us to run unlimited motors with magnetic downforce motors that have samarium magnets in them, so rare earth magnets, that kind of thing. So great big, long, wide cars are a great thing. And I found this offered on Slot Hall.
Yep.
For 20 quid.
Nice.
But there's no chassis. Right.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
but
anyway.
you know what, Alan? You don't want that chassis. It's terrible.
Well, good. I didn't get it. So it's it's all right. Everything I wanted is in here. There are some peculiar things about it. I built it up. Let me show you what I did so far. Give you an idea how big this is. This is a Scale Auto NSR. Sorry, an NSR 8689 in comparison.
Oh yeah, well the real car, Alan, which was based on the Futura, was massive.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of thing that you think that this is going to be a problem on a 130 scale track, but we'll see. Yeah, it is a big car. I've seen pictures. I mean, big even for an American car. These things were built. One of the peculiarities of the build is they say that you should just blank off this aperture where the driver figure should be, and cut one of the driver figures in half, so that you just plonk them on there. But I made a proper seat for Batman. Robin is only a half figure anyway. I don't actually really see that.
Yeah, well, listen, nobody likes Burt Ward. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so hey, it's okay.
Hey, that's not nice. I like him.
He'd have got cut in half even if he was a full figure, right?
He has a dog food company called Gentle Giants, and he's done some great work with that stuff for big dogs.
Oh, he has, yeah, and his wife is really involved in that as well.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I'm being silly. I'm sorry.
So the good thing about this model is it really looks nice. The pinstripe decal work is a nightmare. It fractures without any, even look at it and it will break. So
that's tough.
That's something to do. It's a tough one, but I've got great hopes for that, and that is going to go on top of. You guys know what this is, right?
HRS.
Yep, I use those all the time.
So HRS chassis. It's going to have a BRM Super Evo motor. It's going to be an angle winder, and hopefully it's going to be frighteningly fast, just for fun. You know, why not? So that was my little
comment on that car. That's an Aurora model and it was a $300 model until they repopped it. So now it's a $15, $20 model. But if you went back maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, I was looking to get that. I really wanted it, obviously, for a slot car. But thankfully they repopped it.
Polar Lights also do the Black Beauty, which is the green.
Yes, yeah.
So if I can get hold of one of those at some point, I may have a racing pair of Thundersport class cars for London slot cars.
There's a story on that one. When they repopped the Black Beauty, they didn't have a lot of the parts or the right molds. So when you get it, you're going to see some of it's really poorly molded, but you could fashion a decent car out of it. You know, I'm sure, you know, aesthetics isn't really as important as performance.
Yeah.
How easy was it for you? How easy was it for you to get that the Batmobile? Obviously, you know, I want one.
I didn't hear that. Sorry. Oh, you want John to repop them?
Yeah, there you go.
But I do have the Polar Lights Black Beauty.
Well, that'd be nice. I know somebody who's got one. He never brings it to the track. I'm going to ask him to bring it to the track so I can have a look.
I think we have a couple available at Electric Dreams. I checked the system here; it's not available, but I saw them physically at the store, and I think we have the Black Beauty too. But I think everything is 1/24, not 1/32 scale.
Well, this is 132.
The Black Beauty is 132. The Batmobile they did in 124 and 132, and the 124 they came in like 4 or 5 different model kits to a high-end one with etched parts. And I've made slot cars out of all of them. But in a few minutes, I'll get together the Black Beauty, a few pictures, and show you how I did it.
Well, I got one right here. Is this what you're looking for?
Yeah, that'd be lovely. It's swap meet season in the UK now.
Yep, there you go. Now there were 2 model kits there. One has chrome parts, and there's usually a sticker on it.
This one may well be the one with the.
It would have
no chrome, all black.
Yeah. So you want to look for the one with chrome parts if you can find it. I put what's called an green underlight lighting kit for like a RC 24 scale RC car. I cut it and melded it and put it inside the car, so inside the cabin it glows green. So I'll try and get some pictures together in a little while.
Wow.
You know, you guys know that's my thing, right? The novelty cars. So I've done that, obviously.
Obviously, yep.
Obviously, I've done that one.
Let's hear more from Alan. What's your plans, Alan?
Novelty cars are what I plan to be kind of getting a few of because it's swap meet season here in the UK, which means we get these big swap meets. The next one coming up is on Sunday, Milton Keynes, and there'll be several traders there. There'll be lots going on, lots of junk to buy to part you from your money. And as a club, London Slot Car are going to go up there. We're going to waste our money on stuff we don't need, and then we're going to go to the Milton Keynes Commercial Raceway, Race War, and we're going to be racing Group 5 cars. So if anyone watches this on replay, you know, get up there if you want to on the afternoon this Sunday and see how your Group 5 cars match ours. You know, we'd be glad to see anybody. That's my bit. Catch you next time.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for sharing, Alan. And it looks like we're ready to move on to the next.
I've got 4 Black Beauty pictures ready to go if you want.
Go ahead and show them, John.
All right, here we go. Give me a sec. Okay, I'm getting there. All right, do you see that?
Yep.
So I used the 1/32 scale like army figure to get Kato. So I got Kato in there, and you can see that undercar lighting thing that I embedded into the roof of the car. And here's another look at that. And I put front lights, and I carved out the back lights so they glow too. And here's a picture of from the front. So you can see it's sort of not perfectly molded, you know, but it's good enough. And last picture. And there you go.
That's pretty cool.
All right, guys.
All right, so let's move on to our next normal topic, which is Club Corner. So if you have any recent, present, or future club/racing activity that you want to talk about or tell people about, now's the time. Jim's got his hand up. What's going on in your neck of the wood, Jim?
We had a race last weekend. And Red Hill Raceway is in Santa Rosa, California. They've got some really nice detailing on the track. You know, one of the guys went to great lengths to do this timing tower, and it's just a really nice track until you race on it. And this has the infamous squeeze section. And if you go back and look here, you can see as they're coming down that straightaway on the top, the two outside lanes pinch together. And then when you get into the S's section, all four lanes pinch together. And it's interesting, to say the least. With the race we had last weekend, we usually run three classes, but we ran four. We ran Scale Electrics Trans Am, Group C, NSR F1, and Classic Le Mans. And so here's the grids and the podium from the four classes. We had 10 people. I think there's one car missing. There's one car missing. We had a couple of newcomers and a couple people that have only raced a couple times. So we're starting to get more people into our group. Santa Rosa, if you're not familiar with California, it's about an hour north of San Francisco. Slotted Group C, top three, Gunston Porsches did well. Classic Le Mans, kind of all over the place between NSR, Thunderslot, here and there. And then NSR F1 is a spec class for us. So they're all NSR F1s with some various liveries. I'm going to try to, I know we have problems with videos, but so this is the last slide. So I'll see if this runs for us.
I imagine that is a challenging track to drive with so much squeezing.
So that's it. That's Red Hill Raceway. It's a fun track. You've just got to put, whether it's your ego or whatever behind you, because sometimes you go into the squeeze, you're going to get behind a slower car and he's going to hold you up. And then sometimes that somebody else is going to get held up, or sometimes you're going to be the helder as opposed to the heldee. So you just got, it's a different mindset. We've actually had somebody pick up a car and throw it because they got so mad.
Okay.
And so you just got to go in there with an open mind, and this is toy cars and we're having fun. And it kind of adds a bit of realism. When you go in there, you've got to wait for the car in front of you because you literally can't pass him. And then when you come out of that squeeze section and go down the straightaway, it widens out. And if you're on the outside lane, you've got to get a big run on the car on the inside lane to be able to get around him. Even if you're a couple tenths faster, it's hard to pass. So it's, like I said, you have to be able to put your mindset into this is somewhat more like real racing. You just can't pass anybody anywhere you want. There's passing
We should
points.
call it red face raceway.
I'm sorry, what do you say?
Should call it Red Face Raceway.
Yeah. So that was last weekend. Like I said, we had 10 people there, so it's a good crowd for us. We have another race this weekend at Silicon City Speedway in San Jose. A couple of the same classes we've standardized on for about 6 months: NSR F1 and Group C, and then two others. So we're running a series for those two with points, and so that's worked out well for us. We can run those two classes, and new people coming in, they've got a class they can buy a car for, and they're going to be able to run it for a while, as opposed to buy a car and you don't run it for 6 months. So that's working well for us. Looking forward to coming down to Electric Dreams in March. I've got that on my schedule. Greg, I'm sure you know Rick Jocham. I've created
a threat. Is that a threat for us?
Is what?
Is that a threat?
Yeah.
Should we worry?
No, I've created a monster, Marco. I don't know if you knew Rick Jocham before.
Yeah.
But Rick Jocham is a 5-time Ferrari champion. And I tried to get him on my enduro team, and he was not available at the time. But he's called me 10 times in the last 2 days, including once when we were on this call.
I have access to his order, so I've been.
Yeah, the order was well, it wasn't 4 figures, but it will be by the end of this week. So he's bought 2 908s for the Can-Am class, and he's bought 2 Mercedes AMGs for the GT class, and he's bought other stuff. And the bad thing is he's really good.
Yeah, he was his first time stepping into the store, and he won a heat, and he didn't do better because he was kind of messy on qualifying, but
yeah,
you can see that he's a top racer.
Well, he's been picking my brain, like I said, probably 10 times he's called me in the last 2 days, which is fine. He's a good guy, and he's sending me tires to True and Prepare, and planning on coming down there for the Can-Am in March.
So he's getting into some 1/32 scale racing, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, what tools do I buy? What he's buying spacers and this and that and everything. So
can I use the time and share some pictures of the last race that we had at Retro Dreams?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And Karsten already had his hand up. Mr. Grinneman, go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about, and then we'll get to Marco.
Okay. I would just like to take the opportunity to share something from our club. They made this 1.5 minute video from the last time we were racing.
What kind of cars are they?
These are 1/24 scale, these BIM cars.
The compact cars, like the TTS and the minis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we race what we call the big class, which is the stiff rear axle, and then we race the small class, which is with the ones that have this hinge in the back. The
different.
I don't know what's that called, the cardangled in Danish.
Universal joint.
Universal joint. Yeah.
Then they invented some real terrible thing, which is that we are racing with club cars. So everybody is racing the exact same 4 cars, and then there's no excuse because it's all down to the driving and not your car anymore.
Yep.
Is that enjoyable?
It makes it interesting. And these we are very, very close. When we have raced one night, then you are at 80 laps, and 3 or 4 guys are at the same number of laps. So it's very close racing.
Yeah, that's what we call IROC racing. Basically, the host or the club provides the cars, and everybody rotates through the cars.
Yeah.
It's a great way to equalize, so that you're, like you said, it's more about the skill of the drivers than their preparation ability.
Yeah,
preparation and tuning.
This was our wood track, and it's been tough time with the Corona going on. So one club got a very nice room on a school, and then 3 different clubs have joined all their forces. So we have this wood track, we have a rather nice Scalextric track, and then there's a digital club that's also joined. Unfortunately, I do not know anything about digital racing, but maybe I will learn. So now we are actually 3 clubs in the same room, and that's seems to be very good.
That is cool, and so each club will learn from each other club about how they do things and how they race. Yeah. That's very cool.
It's and one for general discussion later, maybe I would like to learn a little bit about how you conduct your races. You know, I'm making this Labmaster system, and it has a lot of race modes, but I'm also always interested in learning how people are conducting their races. So if we can get to that at a later point, that'd be nice.
Absolutely. We've got plenty of time still. So
I have a question about that at some point. I don't know if you want to do it now.
Let's go ahead and let Marco talk about presumably happenings at Electric Dreams. I assume you're done, Karsten, and then we'll get back to. Okay, so we'll get back to Karsten's question about how people run their races and how he can improve his software further. Marco, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I would like to show a little bit of the pictures that we have and that big news that I promised in the beginning of the call. I'm just trying to figure out how do I share my screen.
You should have. Are you on a PC?
Mac.
So there should be a green share screen button somewhere near the bottom or top of your Zoom interface.
Right in the middle. Yeah. All right.
And then after you click that, you get a pop-up with all the things you can choose from.
Okay. So we probably are you guys seeing me now?
We see your desktop. So it looks like your email program.
Yeah. So here are some pictures. We have a great time. This is the group of racers that we have for 2 classes, Formula 1 and Group 5 racer sideways.
Nice group.
Yeah. Nice people and lots of camaraderie. No fights, no arguments, no.
Nice.
Yeah, I see Mr. Jockum there over on the right
We'll,
side.
we'll change that in March.
Yeah, I was just about to say Jim and I went there, so that's probably why.
Yeah, where's Dennis?
Dennis is not there.
That's why
so
I'm talking about the nice group. Dennis wasn't there. No, just.
There's Ed Shore in the middle, making sure everyone is happy to race slot cars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there were 16 of us.
Yeah.
My buddy Bob's back there too, I see.
Yep.
So
he did pretty well.
Continue the pictures. This is the grid that we have for the Formula 1s. Some people trying the green chassis, which is a little bit harder for a road track. I think is the best option. This is the winning car. It's a car that I did for to test it, to set up the class. So I did with all the parts that would be allowed, and it's a fast car. And Carlos Rafael bought it from the store, and he won the race with it. But he didn't do the pole. So it wasn't the fastest, but was the most consistent. So a little bit more pictures of the store. Here's the setup that we have for the race. Usually we take the NASCAR, we have a real NASCAR at the store out. And,
That's beautiful.
And
California weather.
Put some tables inside. But at this time I just decided to put the second tent because it's just a lot of work to push the NASCAR in and out. Here we have the cars for both races. The pole was having a mug as a prize, one of the Electric Dreams mugs that I have for sale, and this is the grid for the Group 5 cars. My favorite car to use is always the BMW M1. I race at Far Club, and I have 2 of these M1s, and they're always the fastest cars. I won many races with it. But people are liking the Toyota Celica more now. The Toyota Celica is a little bit narrow, but the driver is much lighter. It's not Lexan, but it's much lighter. So those cars are very fun cars to have. But this red car here was the pole position with Chino Herrera. And I think Eddie with another of the Nissans won the race. So the Nissans are pretty fast too. Just to go a little quick, see here's an overall picture of the track. The track was built by Gary Girding like one year and a half ago. We have the lap master system, and here, if you can see, we have a broadcast system. We have a couple cameras around the track. There's one here, there's another there, and we show the races live. I'm planning to improve a little bit this broadcast system. I'm going to have more cameras, and I'm going to have like a microphone out so people can get interviewed. We did that at the Christmas Enduro. It's a lot of work and we're short-handed, but the way that you can see the whole race. I cut to the lap master system so you can take a look how the race is going. I'm developing another thing about the track. I'm going to install here or here one of the Dunlop bridges that Magnetic Racing does. They're going to do a custom-made 6 lanes for us. So we're going to put a Dunlop bridge at the track.
Cool.
A couple more tracks, Bobby Huli. That's the back of the track, and the racers here, and two more pictures. Here's the first, second, third car, the grid, the podium, and here you have the first, second, third.
Really nice numbers, those.
Very nice. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis helped me to put the supports. I found those numbers in Spain. Like they're very little, very cool. I bought it in a hardware store.
Yep.
Rick Jokan was the third place on this race. So he won his B main and made up to third place. So
Nice.
for the first time podium, it's pretty good. If you guys want to go to Electric Dreams one day and race, we have at electricdreams.com/races. We have a very big rule book with all the classes, all the dates. Next race is March, Can-Am. We have a presentation of the track and all the classes you can find there. Group C, Revo slot, everything is very written, all the details that you want, it's there. How the racing day works, what time start opens, track opens, qualifying, how the racing format is. We have our special events there. Have the Halloween Enduro and the Christmas Enduro coming up. The Drivers' Championship, the point systems, the other events that we do outside of the store. We go to the Culver City Car Show with a little tent and track. We go to the El Segundo Car Show too, and we have our big swap meet on the weekend of Father's Day. This is going to be a big event this year too. If you have how to come to California, this is a big event. You're going to have many vendors, and I would like to share some news. You guys are the very first ones to hear about this.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think only Dennis know about this here, and it's
Dennis hasn't said anything to anybody about it.
Okay, so only Dennis knows.
Mainly because Dennis had forgotten all about it until now.
So this is a big event. I'm gonna stop sharing screen just to show you how important it is. This is a big event that we're doing. It's going to be in August. If you check our schedule, there's a save the date big event coming, and we're going to start to promote this next month. It's going to be how's it called? I'm going to show you guys before. Let me open here and share the screen. This is what we have.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Slotted Nationals.
It's Slotted Nationals, yes. It's sanctioned by the Slotted. Mauricio might come. We're going to use the same rules as we race at the store on Group C cars. It's only Group C. We're going to have the full weekend open for practicing. Saturday is going to be qualifying, and Sunday is going to be the race. Cars is going to be in Park Fermi at the store. We're going to offer discount to hotels. We're going to offer even shuttles from the airport. I'm very optimistic, but I'm very realistic. So I'm expecting to have 80 plus racers. It's going to be a big race. It's the same rules that we have at Electric Dreams, with the exception that we are going to draw the motors. You can buy 2 numbered sealed motors that Mauricio is sending us directly from Italy. And you can have the options of these 2 motors for the whole weekend. If you want to qualify with one, if you want to race the second one, or if you're just going to choose the better one, you're going to have this option. But that's a big announcement. We're going to make it public in March, the beginning of the month. It's going to be videos and stuff promoting it. But if you have a way to come to California to race, please do. Mauricio might come. We might have Michael Niemas too. Coming to race, and a couple of other European racers. We're trying to figure out a way to bring the Italian champion to race here with us. So we kind of are looking forward to this date in August, which is going to be a big event for slot car racing here in America.
You're going to need a lot more tents.
Yeah.
I've just scrolled my screen across, and I think Jim's lies have lit up.
So, Marco, you said this is just going to be the one class?
Yes, it's Group C slotted. All the cars that we have. We have
exactly the same as it is now, but handout motors.
Handout motors. You can buy up to 2. They're numbered and sealed. It comes straight from the same batch from Italy.
Time to do some water dipping.
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't say that.
People do whatever they want to do. If you guys saw that, like a couple of days ago, Slotted just released link with the whole inventory of all the cars that they ever made, and to enforce why this big race has been doing at Electric Dreams. Over there, you see 206 models. If you see all the list of all the slot cars that Slotted ever made, we have at Electric Dreams in stock, ready for sale, 194 models. So we're missing only 12 of all the cars that they ever made. So Electric Dreams is the biggest stock of slotted cars in the world, and we have a very nice track. We're creating a very nice group of racers, and we're looking forward to have you guys over and enjoy the weather and enjoy the track and enjoy our racing.
Looks like a fantastic event. Looking forward to seeing it come together and watching it live. That should be lots of fun. So I'll try to remember to put a link to Electric Dreams in the video description. If somebody drops it in the chat for me, that'd be fantastic. Did anybody have any questions for Marco before we move on to? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hey, Marco and maybe Jim, you both have classes that you guys run for Trans Am, Scalextric, Pioneer. We kind of have, and it looks like you guys are using mostly box stock. I don't know about Jim, but at least I'm looking at Marco's rules. How do you keep one car from dominating? Because in our club, we have the 70 Camaro, and it just wins every race on non-magnet tracks. So have you guys figured out a way? Because nobody runs the Cougar or Challenger anymore because everybody hates coming in last. So you guys.
My Challenger is really good, but our track allows you to lower the Challenger about 2 millimeters. And
do you have a link to like your rules that I could look at or not?
I have them. I don't have a link for them. I can post them somewhere. But our rules, Marco's rules are really good, and there's no interpretation in Marco's rules. Our rules are just the opposite. There's a lot of interpretation, and can you do this? Well, maybe. And so it's just, but yeah, it's impossible to get those cars equal.
Right. I was just wondering what other people do because it's just becoming frustrating seeing the same top three.
Yeah, we allow the Javelin to be lowered, and the Javelin's an inline, and it's got a different gear ratio in it. So it's just all over the place. The Mustangs and the Cougars are not even close to being competitive. Yeah. So it's just, 70 Camaros.
Well, my biggest problem with that class is that they use plastic wheels, and I really don't like them. I think you can have, if you have a perfect set of wheels in a Challenger, they're going to be faster than a massed Camaro. And we used to have that class at Big Lou's here. It's another club close by to Culver City where I live, but they use magnets. So the best car was the 69 Camaro from Scalextric. But the problem is when I did that class, we still have the plastic wheels, but you can exchange the motor. I think the Pioneer motor is a little bit better than the Scalextric ones. So if you have a very good Scalextric car, you can install a Pioneer motor. But if you see the calendar, this race is going to happen in a couple of months, and I'm developing with Slotting Plus in Spain a wheel that fit all those cars with a set screw, the correct size of axle and everything. They're very similar. It's just a little bit, the Pioneer is a little bit wider, but they're very, very similar. So as soon as I have the wheels ready for sale so I'm going to change those rules over there, and they can install those wheels, and I think they're going to make the class a little bit more fair for everyone.
Because those are wheels that will go over the knurled axle, or for the really okay, interesting.
We've done that at our club. We did amend the rules last year that you have to run the stock axle, but if you just take a piece of sandpaper and knock the knurling off it, you're allowed to run any wheel any stock size wheel, but you can run an aluminum wheel.
Yeah, but I want to keep the original tires and the original look, and we don't have any wheel available in the market that is that size. That's why.
Yeah, we just went to aluminum wheels, and so
no, it's going to be aluminum, but the same size, so you can use the tire that comes with the car.
Yeah, we're running
another problem that we have is that to send those tires, you need a tire tool just like the Professor Motor one or a Tire Razor one. And as far as I know, Tire Razor is not making anymore, and Professor Motor cannot provide it for the last 6 months. So I need to change to something that people can buy a tire through and just through the wheels. And I really don't believe, like I had Tire Razors, I had Professor Motor myself. I really don't like the result. I think they're bendy, depends on only one screw, that it's never correct. So I go to the Rudy. And I think with the set screw wheels, it's going to be easier for everyone, even to set up. And even when we have customers coming to me and Dennis asking to set up a car, it's going to be much nicer and easier to do those cars than having the whole axle assembling coming out of those.
Are you thinking front wheels also, or just leave the front wheels plastic?
Front wheels plastic.
Do those rules all allow the front wheels, front tires to be coated with a non-slip
I don't believe so. It says anything. Tires permit to be glued. Doesn't say anything. I don't think it make a big difference on a wooden track.
Personally, I like to coat front wheels whenever allowed, just especially with those kind of cars where they're almost always touching.
If you treat them rounded, you're gonna have less contact than they have them flat and they coat.
True, yeah, but you still have to be able to put them on a machine, and that alone is challenging for the front wheels, especially. Yeah.
For that, we developed a product with Dennis, which is kind of I don't know the correct pronunciation. It's a mandrel, so it's the size of the wheel that you need to true, especially for fronts. So we have the mandrel for thunder slot fronts. We have the mandrel for slotted fronts. Yeah, Dennis is making a couple. So with that tool, it's the size of the front wheel. So it's just like a mimic of a wheel, a solid aluminum wheel, but the size of the fronts. And then we have available for fly cars if you need to through the backs. But you have for the fronts for the thunder slots, for the slotted Group C, which is snap-ons too.
So that allows you to true the tire on a wheel-like piece of metal, and then you move the tire to the plastic wheel.
Back to the plastic, yes.
Well, what if the wheel is out of round?
Oh well, then you need to live with the fact that you're racing a plastic piece, not a metal.
Yeah. That's basically why I like to.
I have actually been able to true front scale electric wheels without taking them out of the chassis.
What's your technique?
Yeah.
Well, you take the tire off the wheel that you want to true, and you run a Dremel with a wheel in it. You stick an axle in a Dremel tool. You put an aluminium wheel on there. You put a tire on that one, and you bring the tire against the tire that you've left on the car, which means that the opposite plastic wheel spins, and then you hold sandpaper against it. And I can put the wheel on the front of a scale electric without ever removing it from the chassis.
Yeah, so you're basically spinning the front axle with another device.
And I think Dennis does it on the back of his tire trailer similarly.
You muted.
Yeah, I've done it on the back of the tire. Just turn the tire through the tire raiser around and just hold the chassis, or hold the front wheel up against the little pulley on the motor, spin it, and then do the other one. But really, all I'm trying to do there is just knock off the edges. I mean, you're not going to get them really perfectly round that way ever, but it's better than nothing. But I still think that, as long as if the wheels are reasonably round, then these little mandrels work pretty well for that.
Yeah, and one thing that you guys have to keep in mind is that the front wheels are a lot of weight and a lot of weight in rotating, so you're losing a lot of time there. If you threw a Formula 1 car, a front wheel of a Formula 1 NSR car, you can lose 2 grams on each wheel. And I know because I've done that for my far out racing cars. So imagine you can lose 4 grams of rotating weight in a place that you're not supposed to be. So it's a lot of weight that you have. So if you're doing a racing car, you really need to lower as much as you can, take your rubber out as much as you can from the front.
There you go, Michael. Get your NSR out and take 4 grams off the front wheels.
All right, some good ideas there. Anybody else have anything they want to ask or talk about with Marco or the racing things going on, or should we just open the floor to all slot car related subjects? Anything anybody want to?
We were going to go back to Karsten at one stage too.
Oh yeah, he had his hand up and then he took it down. Karsten, did we want to go back on that topic?
I had one for Marco, but it's a long time since. You talked about the video system at Electric Dreams, and you wanted to go around interviewing people, I assume. Do you know of a software called Minicam? It's a tool that allows you to have input from many cameras and mix it into one broadcast. But one of the features is that you can assign your mobile phone as one of the camera and microphones, and that's very handy to go around. And I've done that at some slot meets and interviewed people. So just a short tip. Maybe it was worth looking into that. many can.
Thank you.
It used to be free, but now it's not anymore.
I'm gonna try. We got a Black Magic switcher board.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's easier on the hand, but it has only 4 channels, and we figure out a way to put more cameras on that thing.
You use OBS, you can have as many USB cameras running at the same time as you want.
Good.
Yeah.
I have a live streaming system as well that we use for our bowling tournaments, and it supports has 6 camera ports. It's using a Blackmagic in the background as the integrating device. It also has the software that allows you to use a cell phone, just like Carton was mentioning. You can take a cell phone and have that as one of the wireless type of camera that you can walk around with. It can be part of the stream as well.
I'm gonna check this idea of having a wireless camera. Thank you very much. I'm to be
live stream.
Live stream.
Yeah. Live stream within the company.
To be super honest, we have Lucas at the store, which is a very handy guy with softwares and this kind of thing. And I don't know much. He's in charge of this. Yeah. But I'm gonna have to communicate with him that we have other options, especially this wireless connections. That seems like very nice for us.
Great. Great option, because we go out into the lanes and interview the participants and things like that. So it really worked wonderful.
I think what we wanted to talk about with Karsten will easily consume the rest of the chat recording time. Mike, you put your hand up. Did you have something quick you wanted to ask or talk about?
No, nothing quick. I just wanted to pick Alan's brain about suspension stuff.
Well, that'll probably take another half an hour, but let's let Karsten take. We'll see how long we can waste with Karsten, and maybe we can get back to you. So Karsten was asking basically how we all do our racing, so that he can come up with improvements to his software and new features and things like that, I presume. One of the things that I find, one of the things that we do in our club in EMSA that is very, very rare is not only because we race crash and burn, but because we race crash and burn, we have a programmed pause in the middle of the 2-minute heat. So we run a 2-minute heat, and if you crash during the first minute, your car is set off the track aside, and then the software automatically stops the counting and the power at 1 minute, and then the crashed cars get put back on, and then we continue for the second minute of the 2-minute heat. That's a feature that is very rare. In fact, we pretty much use the same software that we've been using for 20 years pretty much, because it's the only one that does this. Is that some kind of feature that you might be able to include? Just basically an automatic pause at a certain point during a certain timed race?
I should have a big grin, because that is one of the modes that you can race.
It does,
is
okay.
Implemented in LabMaster.
Awesome. I'll tell the guys that we have an option, because the software that we
crash and burn race mode.
Yeah. Good.
You can program the stint time and the number of automatic track calls you need and all that stuff. So that one's down.
Awesome.
Yes.
Because the software we've been using is starting to be more difficult to use because the developer is no longer with us, and so anytime something comes up, it's just something that we have to live with.
Okay.
So I'll let them know that LapMaster is capable of doing that. So we'll definitely look into it. And I assume LapMaster works with the DS Racing Products timing system hardware?
No.
Only LapMaster hardware?
Only LabMaster hardware and only analog, no digital.
Yeah, I'm only talking about analog.
Yeah.
Okay, so then my next question is, would you ever consider making your software compatible with other hardware?
Probably not.
Okay, question answered.
Yeah, because the program is free, but the hardware is not. That's how I make a little money on it.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
I have a question to Karsten on the same path. My father, when he used to race used to have a commercial track, he added a very nice feature to the racetrack. Everything was analog. He had like a digital display counting laps, but that was separate. There was no software, no computer, no system. And he had like a light switch on his director's chair that just cut the voltage in half, and he called it the yellow flag. and the race was run by a tape recorder. And each heat has 2 minutes. So the tape recorder was 2 minutes long with the recording, say 30 seconds, 1 minute left. And then this light switch somehow was connected to the tape recorder, and the tape recorder was moving slowly every time that we have a yellow flag. So the yellow flag was handy because it was an 8-lane track. And as soon as he hit the yellow flag, everything moves slowly, the car was low. So we have time to put the cars back. And okay, 3, 2, 1, back to 12 volts or whatever they're racing. This is a feature that I would love to have at the Lap Master, the Electrical Dreams, because it will save us a lot of time and you look more like real racing. I don't know, seems like very nice.
So the question of dropping the voltage is something a little bit outside the program, but that can be done in hardware. But I would have a problem with how do you equalize one heat to another heat. It's okay for if you are 8 racers and you race one, but if you're 16 racers and you run the win from all heats,
no, I understand.
It will become a problem.
I understand that, but it's the same reason if you have a lot of track calls in one heat and you don't have any of the other ones. So the other ones are going to have a better pace. So the yellow flag kind of goes in the same way.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the suggestion. Look into it.
Was your question about other things, was it for supporting digital or was it strictly for supporting analog?
Just analog. Yeah.
For Lab Master, I'm not going to venture into digital. I don't think I will ever do that. But it's also a general question. So if you want to discuss digital race formats, then by all means do so.
Question for Karsten. Does your software support pit stops?
No.
Okay. Because we do.
That's what I consider the main difference between digital and
no. Well, this is analog. Some of our HO racers now have gone to pit stops during an analog race, and it requires 2 timing bridges. And so when you come under the first bridge, about 18 inches apart. So if you come under the first bridge and you don't cross the second bridge, within a 1/10 of a second or so, it assumes you're in the pits and starts adding fuel to you. And during the race, you deplete your fuel, and then the software tells you you've got to come in and stop for 2 seconds and add fuel. So it's an analog race, but with pit stops. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, when you say when you the fuel consumption does that affect the voltage, or
no.
Is it just
no? It's based on time. Basically, you get X amount of X amount of laps in a full fuel tank, and you can see on the scoring bridge or the scoring monitor, it's going down. And it tells you have to stop for the pits, and then you stop between the 2 timing bridges. And when you stop between the 2 timing bridges, it knows you're there because you've gone over one and not the other. And then your fuel level starts to go up, and then when it's full, then you go back out again.
Interesting. I never heard about that, but
it does require 2 timing bridges.
I've implemented that in my race coordinator software on our system as well. And because we're using the bigger cars, 132 scale, it's just 1 light bridge, and as long as your car is hit by that light bridge, it's recognized as being in the pit and does the refueling. And the key component that I think you need to make sure that you incorporate, Karsten, would be that if you run out of fuel, your laps stop counting. So that for the car, they don't cut the voltage, or can cut the voltage if you wanted to, but in general, if you run out of fuel, that's what triggers the counting system to stop counting the laps.
Yeah, ours does the same thing. When you run out of fuel, your car keeps going, but you're not counting laps.
Yeah, on the software that we use, one of the tracks has added the feature to be able to utilize this, and it's basically it's very much like Dewan was saying. You got to park under the light. There's a single light bridge. You got to park your car directly under the light so that it's blocking the sensor, and then the software knows that if your lane sensor is being blocked for more than a certain amount of time, that you've stopped under the light, and so you're taking a pit stop. And so then it refuels your car. Fuel is burnt based on your lap time. Your fuel, the amount of fuel in your car does not affect the voltage to your lane or anything like that. In this particular case, if you run out of fuel because you forgot to stop under the light to refuel, if you were to pass under the light on your last drop of fuel, then it would cut power to your lane entirely. So you would basically just roll to a dead stop, and then you're completely out of the race. Obviously, that would be optional, but just having a virtual fuel tank whereby you have to stop your car and refuel can add a lot of fun to a race. Even if the penalty is just dead stop, or like Dewan was saying, that you just don't count laps after you've run out of fuel, so you're effectively out of the race at that point. But some kind of penalty, lap penalty or time penalty or stopping completely or whatever, so that you have to refuel. So you can't just have people running around without fuel and still counting laps.
Right.
That's a lot of fun, even on analog.
It added a whole new dimension. Absolutely.
Okay, never thought about doing that, so it's very interesting to hear this.
Carson, I just put a link to the YouTube video I made showing analog fuel, how it works. And then, like they said, we use it for equalizing races. Like when I'm racing with the kids, I can do 4-second laps and they can do 6-second laps. But this way, I have to stop for fuel more often, and it gives them time to catch back up.
Yeah, and there's some videos on my channel as well. Racing at Russ's track, very large routed wood track. We do fuel races there. And yeah, the slower racers don't have to fuel as much because they're not burning as much fuel because they're going slightly slower. And it does help even things out, even
kind of like real life.
Kind of like
taking it easy.
Yep. And a lot of analog racing software does incorporate some kind of fueling mechanism, PC lap counter, race coordinator, race manager, the one that we use. And yeah, so it's definitely worth thinking about.
One thing I'd like to see in the analog fueling in the future, I don't know if anybody will ever do it, but like U2 versus O2 Transams, I wonder if one gets better gas mileage, if you could set it by like car type, and just to kind of give the smaller, weaker cars a chance to win.
Yeah, that's something we can do in digital, but I've not seen that in analog.
You could probably program that into the driver, because that driver is driving an undercar as opposed to an overcar. So that driver in whatever lane gets more fuel than the other drivers, and that could carry over from lane to lane, because
I know race coordinator lets you pick what car you have, but it doesn't let you like pick it for the race. I mean, you can have a list of different cars, but you can't tie it to the driver.
And if you're driving an Alfa Romeo, then you get disqualified because you've got too big a tank, right?
Well, you wouldn't finish
track
anyway.
mate doesn't have that fueling system.
Okay.
Nothing in tracking.
But I can't. All it is just the timing system on mine and round robin. Yeah, but it definitely hasn't got a fueling system on it.
No, TrackMate doesn't have any of that.
No.
Oh yeah. And then when you run out of fuel on mine, it cuts power to that lane, so you don't want to run out of power.
What's Mike Block software? Slot Track? Greg?
What's that?
I think it's slot track. Yeah.
So Slot Track is what we're using because it supports it.
Yeah, I know his Mini KSR had the 2 light bridges, but we didn't actually use fueling when I was there because it was just about the quarrel. That would have been fun. And I'm pretty sure it does, because I'm blanking on his name, but one of the guys that used to come on a lot has the Carrera analog 2-lane track that he just added digital to. They use slot track and fuel to help equalize the cars. They have a longer pit stop for cars that aren't as fast. So they basically have a run what you brung kind of racing system, and they do qualify times, and based on the qualify times, you either have a longer or shorter pit stop time, so that ideally both cars end up with a similar number of laps at the end of the race.
Steve Hendrickson.
Steve, thank you very much, sir. Yeah. So yeah, that definitely, he uses that software, so it definitely has that functionality, and he puts it to great use.
Okay.
I've got a different question for Carsten. Carsten, when you were showing us that video that you were running what we call IROC, where all 4 drivers drive the same car, does the same car stays in the same lane, right?
Yes.
And so the drivers themselves move from lane to lane.
Yes.
And so does each heat or each stint start with the cars back at the start line?
Yes.
So at the end of each stint, you need to collect the portions of a lap, right?
Yes.
Is your lap master able to do that right now?
Yes. It does it based on your average lap time and the time that you last passed the counter.
Okay.
So if you go off in the last half track or half round, then it's not entirely correct.
Okay. So
but you could define the race as being the passing the closest. So yeah. We don't bother about doing zone corrections.
Okay.
You could do
it with zone correction. Yeah. Okay. All right. I just wondered how you were doing it.
But the system does it automatically. And then we also have this drive home feature. So after the stint is over, it says, thank you, please drive the car home and move to your next lane. Then power comes on for whatever you said, 20 seconds or what you said. So cars can be driven home rather than having to go around the track and collect the cars.
Okay, is the drive home a standard feature?
It is something that there's a check mark in LabMaster when you set up your race if you want to have the drive home feature.
Oh, okay. I just don't remember it, but
maybe you have a very old version. But
no, I'm looking at the help files of 3.29 right now.
329. Yeah, we are 330, so you are not that old. It's in the race setup. Then if you click the challenge mode, which is this counting the estimating the zones and bringing all the cars back to start.
Okay. All right, I got it.
If you click on that, then you also get to click on if you want drive home.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis, we actually do just a regular rotation up here with our IROC races. We move the cars.
So
you're moving the car to where the with the driver.
Correct.
So you're taking wherever if you're going from red to white, then the car that is on white gets moved to where the car is on red and so on. So you move the cars to replicate the driver's finishing positions. Yeah.
It's easier if you number the cars, because basically what it is the 4 car goes to the position of car 3. 3 goes to 2, 2 goes to 1, 1 goes either back to the start line or where that driver finished if he's coming in.
Yeah.
So we're just doing a rotation.
Because that's the best way to do it with TrackMate, because TrackMate doesn't have a thing for taking sections.
So it's
to do that, but then you're into having to move the cars, and somebody has to do that, right?
Yes, somebody has to. If you're, if you're running 3 or 4 lane tracks, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're going to be running a 6 or 8 lane track, it gets a little complex.
But it does make it totally fair, because you're going to the exact position where you finished, even though you changed lanes.
But you're always running the same car. Like if I start on
car number 4 stays in lane 4, but moves to the position of car 3.
Okay.
And so the driver moves. So when the driver moves, he gets a new car, but in the original position where he finished that heat.
Okay, so he doesn't lose his partial laps.
No.
Basically, still gets.
No, and he doesn't gain any partial lap either, which can happen if you move all the cars back to the start line.
Yeah.
Which some of our people do, and it drives me crazy. But it's basically just 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to either where the driver's coming in or back to the start if he's coming in fresh.
Yeah.
Once you do it a couple times, it's real easy. The first couple times, it's real crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine me explaining to the guys how we could transition to doing it that way.
We have one designated person that changes the cars.
Yeah. I don't like those designated persons. It gives me too much work to do because it's always me.
I mean, it's hard enough for us to get the guys to say, bring the cars back around to the start, let alone saying, okay, move that car over there and that car over there and that car.
So, Karsten, in the challenge mode, then at the end of a race, the Lapmaster system will add up all of the completed laps plus the sections?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And so at the end of the race, everybody gets a few extra laps based on the sectional, combined sectional amounts.
Sure.
The counter will show the correct value. The downside of doing this is that it's a little hard to know if you are in front or not, because it depends a little bit on the number of sections that you have gained. So the exact position on the track is not necessarily the exact position in the race.
Yeah, agree. Okay, thank you.
But that's a lot better than just crossing the line a foot ahead of another car and gaining a whole lap.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else have any suggestions or questions for Karsten before we give Michael his minutes? Seeing and hearing none. Mike, you wanted to pick Dennis's brain, I believe. You're muted.
Oh dear.
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. There we go.
You can stop skipping now.
You're muted. You're muted.
I wanted to ask Alan actually about suspension.
Oh yeah.
And first off, I'll show some of the things that I've tried. If you can see this, let's see. Okay, if you look at the side pod there, you can see there's a foam piece in between the chassis and the top. That's the system that Thunderslot uses. They will have the foam piece in between there, and it moves. Let's see if I can get it. There, well, can't see it very well, but there's a little bit of pod movement there as a result of it. And NSR uses springs. Slotted uses springs. Has he had any experience with those, and how effective are they? I know that some of the Disca people use side mount suspension as opposed to 5-point or 3 or 4-point suspension. Has you got any info on what's good, bad, or indifferent on any of those? Thunderslot uses a 5-point suspension.
Yeah, it looks like Alan
Or
left.
6. Oh crap. Okay.
He's not showing up in the list. Wayne might have some input on that. Or anybody else who's experimented with suspension.
The suspension systems that are commercially available for most slot cars are wholly inadequate, in my opinion. Better way. There are better ways, but I think most suspension systems allow a lot more motion than there should be.
Yeah, have you tried the foam? Have you tried the new foam ones that Michael's talking about?
No, I haven't actually even heard about those, but they are. That has potential because foam actually doesn't only spring; it also damps slightly.
Yeah. That's. Let me grab a Thunderslot car and take it apart, and I'll show you what I mean.
Has anybody else on the chat used the foam suspension dampeners yet?
Not yet, but it's a good idea. Based on what Chris Walker used to talk about, using those little urethane washers.
Yeah.
Silicone. Yeah.
Silicone washers. So the foam's probably a pretty good idea.
Well, usually what I do, generally what I do is I put a silicone washer on the in between the screw and the chassis, and then have the foam up on top of it. So if it's damped on both ends. The screw is damped at the bottom slightly. The small silicone washers are there. Now, this is a Thunderslot car. This is the rear and the side. And then, of course, there's, this is actually 5-point. There's one in the front. Now, this was 0.3 of a second more effective on the Scalextric track when I was trying it out. And it sort of transformed all of the cars into being much more controllable.
Yeah.
So you've been experimenting with that on other cars now, right?
Yes.
And
That's what the chassis that this is a Group 5 Ferrari 512. And what I'm doing is I'm putting, mimicking the suspension of the Thunderslots on the slotted Sidewinder pod.
You're using the Thunderslot parts then, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can get the foam inserts separately. Now, ideally, I would have a long enough screw, but I haven't gotten those yet. So
in your opinion, is that working better than the coil spring suspension that you can get?
I have not tried it yet. I have tried coil springs on the rear of Slottets. Their suspension kit that works, but doesn't seem quite as well as the Thunderslot. It doesn't have quite as dramatic an improvement, but there is improvement. One of the nice things about the slotted suspension setup is that you can control the amount of suspension movement. And so there will be, and it's adjusted by grub screws at the rear. And so far, I've only tried it on the rear 2 screws, the pod screws there. I haven't tried it on screws or anything. But, I was curious, like, whether there's any benefit to doing just side pods on there. I noticed that most of the Disca guys are using either 3 or 4-point mounts
and a lot of those cars that do that at Disca get beaten by a loose slotted pod.
Really?
Yeah, the race has been. I'm sure the race has been won by just a slotted pod with its screws backed off. It really is a horses for courses thing. The separation between the springs across the center line of the car. If you imagine the 2 coil springs on the back of the slotted pod, they're probably 25, 30 millimeters apart.
Okay.
And although they work nicely up and down, they're not far apart to control roll.
Right.
And what you've got there is your springing is essentially a long way across the car. So you've got a lot more roll control and probably similar vertical control. I personally like the idea of having the springs just in front of the rear tires as far apart across the car as possible. That way, when you change the spring, the car will change. It will significantly change when you choose a different spring, because I think most of the suspension systems, they feel okay vertically, but they don't control the roll. They have, depending on how much grip you've got, you may want it to transfer weight across and roll quite a lot, but most good tire combinations and good track surfaces have got a lot more grip, and the G-forces and things that go on in the slot car are really very high. That I think in a lot of cases, the chassis will touch the track, and you can't afford for that to happen. Otherwise, it takes weight off of your rear tires.
Yeah.
So what I tend to use is I use some paper correction fluid, like Tipex is one brand. I don't know what you get in the States, but I'll use a very soft white paint or a Tipex, if you get Tipex, on the extremities of the chassis, and I constantly monitor that to see whether that's being rubbed off by contact with the track surface.
Oh, much like you do with glue on 124 scale tracks. On the chassis on 124 scale, you can check the buildup of glue on the front edges.
That's right. Yeah, on the little knot wheels. Yeah, the skids.
The skids. Yeah.
So yeah, that technology works on 32 scale, but you haven't got. Yeah, you have to come up with a paint or something that can get rubbed away. And I use a very soft paper correction fluid that will knock off as soon as it touches the track. And I read the car and then add more pressure to the springs or change the spring to a firmer one or a softer one. And that's how I play with it myself. But I'm not completely convinced that they are always the best solution. I think my working theory at the moment is that they are good on plastic, but no good at all for wood. That's just me.
Since I race on, that's the consensus that doesn't work on wood tracks as well, that it's not as important. But, having dramatic results has sent me down that rabbit hole.
Have fun. That's the whole idea.
I mean, it sounds like, it's certainly possible that, like what was Wayne was saying, that the more common suspension systems, springs and magnets, for example, allow too much, right? So in order to dial that out, you might as well not even have it. But maybe the foam system works better because it dampens and provides a small amount of suspension, but doesn't just let the pod, let the chassis.
The question has to be asked, is there any room for suspension at all? Because when you consider the ground clearance of a slot car, particularly a magnet downforce slot car, or a car that's using its motor to gain a little magnet downforce, which is certainly the case in Mike's non-magnet racing, the ground clearance is so small that the range of motion for any suspension is incredibly small.
Yeah.
So we're talking like sub 1 millimeter, aren't we?
Yeah.
And how much control can you have over that 1 millimeter or less of motion? I mean, it's going to be less than a mil, because a mil is your ground clearance. And as soon as you move a mil, you've hit the track. So,
are you actually suspending, or are you just isolating vibration? What is the function?
This is the question, isn't it? Yeah. Are you actually setting up a mass damper system?
That's a distinct possibility. That's where the improvement comes from.
And Alan's theory
on a bumpy track like this
is that the cars work like trains, and the more different parts you have, the more ability each part has to do its own thing.
Michael,
and it ties into body float too. It's all similar. It's all
Michael, I got an experiment for you.
Okay.
You put the dampening system in the thunder slot. The car got better, correct?
Yeah.
But now you have more travel, right? In that dampening, you've got more travel because you put, the foam limits the travel, but you still got a lot of travel, right, in your pod versus the chassis?
Yeah.
Why don't you take the dampening foam out, leave that travel in, and see what happens?
I have.
Okay, so
I've already done that. It doesn't work as well.
Okay. I just wanted
a lot of travel.
Yeah, the secret seems to be in the amount of damping and springing that you get to allow the chassis to move gradually and get stiffer as it rolls more. That seems to make the difference. Now,
so this
theory, you can't tell for sure, but
of course, what happens here is that you theoretically corner on your guide and one front wheel, the outside wheel.
Yeah.
And the clearance between your front wheel and the track is very, very important in terms of dictating how much the chassis rolls anyway.
Yep.
So everything is tied to everything else. And it's just the same as full-size cars. Every change you make makes a difference to a lot of systems that are all working together.
Well, for me, I'm always trying to equalize the cars, and that means that I'm making changes to the cars as I go, specific to each different car. But I try to keep them the same, not looking for ultimate fast lap time, because if my car corners better than everybody else's, it's really no fun for them.
Of course.
Mike, what is the thickness of that foam?
I can measure it.
I'm going to gamble on about 3 millimeters there.
I was going to say it looks to be 4 or 5 millimeters, maybe a quarter inch tops.
Really?
I have it. I have the technology.
Use the vernier caliper, people.
Yeah, but it's not really vernier caliper because it's digital.
Oh.
4.5 millimeters.
4.5, yeah.
You said that's a heck of a lot, isn't it?
I was gonna say maybe another test when you have some extra foam bits is slice them in half and see if
Well, actually, the MR slot car foam pieces that they use on the side mounts are roughly half that distance, but they're a little denser foam. So therein lies another thing: how dense is the foam going to be?
Yeah,
it seems to be
thicker but denser, or thinner but not dense, and
yeah. The denseness of the foam on the Thunder sled seems to work really well. We'll see. I'm doing the Group 5 now. I'm trying this suspension out on that, and I'm using a 4-point suspension.
Does it look like a washer?
What's that?
Is it round like a washer?
Yeah. Here,
Okay.
I'll show you.
And if you want to limit the travel on that, Mike, what you can do is enlarge the hole through the center, get a little bit of plastic tubing, and make it just shorter than the thickness.
Oh, put a bump stop.
Oh, that's an idea. Yeah.
Make a bump
stop. Put a little solid
bump
tube
stop
inside your
essentially is
foam.
what you're talking
A bump stop, yeah, and that will limit the travel. Even though you've got 4.5 millimeters of foam, only a 1 millimeter of it will compress.
And about the only thing I
it
can
be done.
use that I think work with that is because you have to have accuracy on your thicknesses, and God knows my fingers are too big to start making washers like that. But the brass
long
washers
axle
that they
spacers
use,
and things.
yeah, axle spacers is what I'm thinking of. To put in there, the NSR ones are pretty accurate. I've measured them, and they're pretty much the same all the way across the board. So I might try that. That might be an idea that I could do. What you're doing is dialing out a certain portion of the damping and just getting the bottom part of it.
Yeah.
To see where it works. Okay.
Awesome.
The other
We're
thing
gonna
that
look-
you could do. Pardon me?
I was gonna end the recording.
Wants to end the recording.
Go ahead, Mike.
The other thing that you could do is, since I've left the rear
Screw holes out.
screws out, I can use those as stops, which would do the same thing.
But because they're so close together, it would be the motion range in those two is very, very small. Whereas out on the wings, the motion range is almost 1-to-1.
You know what? I agree with you in that regard. There's a difference there, but there's a fair amount of motion at the rear. I mean, enough that it's longer than the screw.
You could even probably get some larger diameter grub screws and pop them in the holes so that they're infinitely adjustable with just 1/6 of a turn. And
yeah, that's a possibility too.
All right, sounds like you've got some fun things to experiment with, and we look forward to hearing those experiment results. I'm going to hit the stop button on the recording, and we'll keep chatting about other things, but yeah, go ahead. Jim's ready. He's waving bye. Everybody wave bye. We're going to hit stop. Here we go. Stopping now.